And we're live. Welcome everybody to Lorelines episode 72. We're discussing Ivalice yet again, this time with friends. Welcome everybody. Today we've got Ayumi, Meowth, kids, Neela, Sarah, Sonotic Scribe, and Eurasian Archives, Lanverley. Although I've been notified that he is not in fact a adorable green Lalafell.
Definitely not.
What?
Nope,
Oh,
nope,
no.
feel cheated.
You could
Definitely
have,
lies.
you could have sent me the proper avatar for Lamberless, but
Nah.
well.
Maybe
It's
next time.
okay. We're
It's
gonna
funnier
just
this
channel
way.
the potato.
That's right, Demins. I am an Aniri imposter. I have taken the form of your adorable little potato.
But it's not even his final form.
Final form is sweet potato.
I may be at the end here, but I'm going to punch you, Foul.
You can't punch me. You're like 7 states away. Ha 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 ha.
Wait, you actually counted that?
I mean, no.
What a creeper.
Yes. Anyway, welcome everybody. I am not certain where to start. We've discussed Ivalice a few times. I know we've got some new friends here today. Old new friends.
Oh,
old
I know
friends.
where to start.
Oh, Ayumi.
With reinforcement.
Then Ayumi has the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Sir.
I'll be moderating again, so don't worry. So we all kind of think about Ivalice. Well, when it's mentioned to us at 14, we all think back to the Ivalice raids. A couple of us like it, a couple of us don't. We all share fond memories of it, especially for those who have played 12 and Tactics and Vagrant Story in the past. Now, if you are curious or kind of think a little bit on it and wonder, a couple of us wonder that how far back does the Ivalice lore go? Does it actually tie in with the 14 lore? Where are the locations in 14? We know on the Eorzean map they are there, but what purpose do they hold? And these questions I want to bring to topic to Lanverley and Synodic Scribe. So I open the floor to either one of you. What period in time in the Umbral and Astral Calamities do you think Ivalice was founded?
This is a tough one because many of the NPCs and scholars within Final Fantasy XIV have admitted that some of the stories that they've inherited about Ivalice, they don't even believe to be true. They don't even believe to be factual. That it's just wives' tales, fantasies, and stories. Though, as you've said through the raids, we've seen some of these stories are in fact true. So it begs the question, how much of it is factual and how much of it is fantasy? In this case, I want to believe that the idea of Ivalice, even if it wasn't always known as such, has existed for a long time. Because look at Bozia, for instance. That dates all the way back to the Third Astral Era, getting invaded by the Alcan Empire and stuff like that. And I believe in the Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 2, it states that the heroes in Evolution folklore have risen at least 8 different times. This suggests a long timeline. Not something that would have happened, like, say, just arrived in the 6th Astral Era, because that wouldn't make sense. Why would heroes rise and fall in that many times in only 1,000 years? Unless every generation had its own heroes every single time. So, I'm of the opinion that if the idea of Ivalice does exist still, that it existed for longer than we may think.
Lanverley, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I gotta agree. There's no way that it was like a six astral era thing, right? The real question for me is which side of the third astral era did it come into? Was it around before Alag, or did it come after the fall of Alag? And that there are some connections to the other games that kind of lead me in the it came rather immediately after the fall of Alag, but I'm sure that we'll be getting into that a little bit later.
And with the advent of course, we know of the Garleans who came from the southeast from Gaug, around there. We know of their history, so I want to open the floor to the others now. Meowth, what are your thoughts?
You know what I think about this? I mentioned that I believe, particularly Ivalice, at least as a kingdom, to have started in the second Astral era, which is the one that was the calamity of fire, and also a very religious based civilization. Which, if you play tactics, you know that. The at least the first original tactics is or was heavily governed by the Church of Glabados, which is what makes me think pre-Allegan era and stuff. Also, because by that time, Bosnia, I mean, Third Astral era, Bosnia already existed as a kingdom. Was we know that Bosnia retaining Oracite and myths from Ivalice might well have been part of the Evolution Kingdom. So if Bosnia was already a thing in the Third Astral era, then perhaps Ivalice had fallen before that. So Bosnia is kind of a province or something that endured the fall or gained independence. Uh, so yeah, those are my thoughts. I could go a bit further in, but I don't really want to.
What about you, Fal?
I've been in agreement with Meowth on this for a while. We actually have pulled up the entries on stream before. I could do that still, but there's an entry on the second Astral Era and an entry on the fourth, and both are very faith-centered, shy away from technology eras. And so I think that the historical period just spans, I think it's a 3-era span. I really do think it began before Alag and ended as Alag ended and continued into the fourth era. That's my feel.
Neela, core healer?
I'll just say quickly that Meowth basically covered my take on it. I don't have a strong feeling for when it is. Going purely on vibes, it seems to vibe with the religious fervor of the second Astral Era to me.
I tend to agree with the both of them on that as well. It really does give the sense that like it was born out of that religious moment and was preserved even in spite of Alag for many years afterwards.
Very good. So going from that period in time, we know that Dalmasca is a kingdom by this time going forward, and going south. We know on Authored it's a kingdom to the southwest, towards the very bottom of the continent. At the very bottom, in the jungles there, you'll find the Orban Monastery. To the southeast off the coast, you'll find the Clockwork City of Gag, or as you know it, the Ritterana Lighthouse. These locations are prevalent in Ivalice lore, and you visit a few of them. There are also, to the east, a few locations from Vagrant Story. Now, bringing all that up, we also know throughout history that there is Oracite used by the Zodiac Braves. I want to go over the Oracite real quick and the Zodiac Braves. So I'm going to go with, let's see, Lanverlei. Go ahead.
Okay, so we we run into Orosite in 14 initially, right? When we're trying to find a way to kill Asians. We also see it present in both tactics and 12 in different forms. But the biggest thing that we see that is common at least through tactics in 14, because a lot of the return to Ivalice stuff is tied more to tactics than 12. It is the story of the Zodiac Braves, right?
Yes.
So we see in both instances Orosite also can corrupt, right? So yeah, yeah.
Going over the Orosite, let me kind of rephrase this. What about how the Orosite kind of compares to the Scions of Light and Darkness?
Okay, so everybody here,
Because
I'm
we
sure, is
see all of
already aware.
we see the zodiac signs on the Orosite in 14. What exactly do those mean?
You know what? I actually can't remember which ones are which.
But let's go into the Scions of Light and Darkness first.
Okay, so Scions of Light, right? So that was our espers from 12.
No, those are the Sons of Darkness.
They're like in opposition to each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for the Scions of Light, everybody should remember almost all of the names on there as the Asians, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
There is one notable exception on that, but that would be Ultima, who we do fight
Oh, I can't wait.
in the raids.
Which
Um,
Ultima? Ultima Prime, Ultima Diet, Ultima with the tar version.
they really do like to use Ultima a lot.
Yes.
The
for
word.
things.
Proto Ultima.
Still, the Asians do have their equivalent in Ultima. It's just kind of a different pronunciation, different spelling, but they needed because in Ivalice, in the evolution lore, at least in 12, like that, Zodiac and Ultima aren't science of light or science of darkness. They just, since they're pure, holy light and darkness. So that,
Yes.
yeah, that.
But yeah, so the Scions of Darkness, we get to see those as we get to see some of them as we're going through the raid series. You've got Belias, Chaos. We're here to kill Chaos. Zalera for all of my crystal folks. Hashmal. Hashmal was like the first one that we fought, wasn't it?
No, Matthews.
Matthews.
Matthews is the
Yes.
Mattias was
That's
the
right.
first, yeah.
Okay. But Hashmal's the dude with the ridiculous
Let's call them
Powers.
horn claws.
horn claws.
I have no
claws,
idea
yes.
what they are.
So I'm trying to remember the rest of them. I know there's Cuckoo Lane.
Famfrit,
Yeah, Famfrit,
Belial.
Mateus. Yeah,
Shempathai,
Belial.
Shemasai.
Shem has that's
Let me bring this up.
Dramalek.
Let me bring this up for
Dramalek,
Val.
Galifon, yeah.
Yeah, we see Shem Hazai and
Adramelech.
Adramelech in Bazia.
Zero Moose too.
Yeah.
Zero Moose.
Here you go,
is,
pal.
Cancer.
I'm sure
scroll.
we're going to talk about Zeromus
Exodus.
quite a bit.
Exodus, the tree Libra thing, drops meteors on you.
So So one thing that I think is really nice to point out when we're looking at the signs of darkness and light is only one of them is associated with a zodiac sign that we typically don't talk about, and that's Zodiarch. They're with Ophiuchus, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
Ophiuchus.
Yep.
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus. Whereas all the rest of them are like your normal zodiac signs that everybody's familiar with, right? So, man,
Which they made quite literal use of with the the crystals for the convocation.
yes,
Don't worry, we're bringing
Sort
the
of.
list up.
Sort of. Have we? I'm trying to remember. Have we seen all of the crystals for the convocation? I thought that we got like really good looks at like 4 or 5 of them, but I don't remember us getting good looks at all of them.
I'm pretty
Do
sure
you
we
mean
did
mean,
them all.
constellation crystals?
You can assert just by looking at the ones we did that the rest of them
Yeah.
follow the same
A little bit
pattern.
further down.
Yeah.
There they are.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Um.
So my face is obstructing Zodiac entry, and that's disgraceful. But
Oh well, that's the way it goes.
So there's 13
Yeah,
technically.
so we've got Belias the Gigas associated with Logrif, the Transcendent, Ares, Chaos, Mitron, Zalera, Emet-Selg, Zeramus, Pastero, Hashmal is Fandaniel, Ultima is not associated, but we do have this interdimensional space being from the raids.
And
We'll get
Ultima.
that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I'm just reading the list, Ayumi. Exodus for Halmarut, Kukulane for Nabrialis, Shemhazai for Igayorm, and Adramelech for Dudalaphon, Famfrit for Emeraloth, and Lahabrea as Matthias the Corrupt. So, old news, but man, this table is so useful.
It is. Sonotic, do you have thoughts on this?
So, are we trying to like draw a comparison between like Final Fantasy XIV's interpretation of Ivalice and like
Yes, with the
12?
Orosite and the zodiac signs in, because when we start the Ivalice raids at the end of the Rabanastre raid, we see Bagamnon pick up one of the Orosite, and it has the symbol of Taurus in it. Or was it? No. It was a symbol. There was a zodiac symbol in it.
Are you talking about the Duma?
Yeah.
Duma, yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the names of the Orosite shards are from Tactics Ogre. I think something related. I think I read something about that.
That was before.
Because I know the third boss of Rabanastre, Rofocale is. I think he's from Tactics Ogre too.
Yes.
Which happy coincidence! Now we have the remaster of Tactics Ogre coming.
We do. Somehow I missed that. Like that doesn't surprise
Wait,
me.
say that again.
Yeah, what the remaster of Tactics Ogre coming?
Yep.
Soon?
That's right. I remember this was a month or two ago. It was announced. Hold on.
That would explain why I didn't catch it.
Yeah,
I've
it's
been,
new.
yeah.
But back to Sonotic. What are your thoughts?
This one's tough because, of course, it's not one-to-one. Not at all. Because, as we've seen with other Final Fantasy references in 14 to other games, usually they're reference in name only. Sure, they'll have similar themes, but ultimately they've worked whatever story that it came from to fit 14's narrative. The Crystal Tower being an amazing example of introducing Final Fantasy III's lore in a very organic way that still makes sense in the 14 universe. And I think we're seeing the same thing here, because all of the Scions of Darkness that we see in Final Fantasy XII appearing in Final Fantasy XIV aren't these fallen angels as they're described in that series. In this game, they are recreations of forlorn desires, dreams, etc., creating ultimately the Lucavi. So it's very interesting to see how they've gone out of their way to kind of take all of that data, inject it into 14, and make it still make sense. Because ultimately, the Orosite that we see used by the characters to end up becoming Lucavi, to end up creating the Scions of Darkness, were propagated by the High Seraph. So, very interesting to hopefully get more information on that in the future. Very, very disappointed that we didn't get more expansive lore from the Bozia series, and that was kind of cut off. I pray to God that was just a COVID casualty, because man, I was looking forward to more stuff in that regard.
Have you all completed Bozia, including the ending cutscene there? Watch the after cutscene, I mean.
Yeah, I completed
Yes.
the ending cutscene and read all the pages of the stupid book.
I have not read all of the pages. I still have 2 pages left to get.
Just
2
2.
minutes. Yeah.
See, I was about to say I'm in the same boat, but here you are.
Yeah. Actually, Scribe, I've got a really good question for you, related to the Orosite. So whenever we encounter Orosite in tactics, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the specific Lucavi in it, right?
That's right, yeah.
I don't remember. Didn't we have somebody use the same Orosite stone and get 2 different Lucavi in 14? Because
That was
Argath.
Argath, yeah, transformed
Yeah.
into his own version. Then Bagamnan did it and transformed into Yasmat.
Yeah.
That was with
that
the
is true.
Duma, wasn't it?
The Duma, yeah, the Duma stone apparently can host
Yeah,
different.
they got it from Argath, and then Bagaman used it.
And he became
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
A weird metal
Yeah.
dragon instead of.
No, yeah, I mean, no.
Yeah, it was just weird because, like, in tactics, I remember, like, the
specific
the
holy
stones
stones.
have a specific demon in them, and it seems like it's just
From
whatever.
From what I've seen, it's less about the stone and more about the person, because like you've seen, we saw that the same stone created 2 distinct entities, and the book even went out of its way to say that the Orosite resonates with a person's feelings, whether they be foul or fair. So it stands to reason that the same crystal would stimulate different things for different people. So you got Yzmat from the second fight in the tower. You ended up getting Argath from the first one, ultimately from the same stone. So at that point, you have to draw the line between the rock and the person.
That ties into Final Fantasy Tactics as well. One of the most potent scenes is at Rielvini's castle at the top after you finish that encounter, and one of the siblings resurrects the other sibling using the Holy Stone, even though it so far has created demonic mini-bosses.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pure of Heart apparently don't need to fear using it once or twice.
We had kind of that same sort of vibe in the Ivalice raid series when we go to Urban Monastery and we find Mustadio, Agrias, and Thunder God Seed transform into Lucavi, but they're not evil Lucavi. We fight them because they're kind of testing us, but it's not like they become evil or something like that. They've just gone Lucavi to guard Ultima's stealing place.
Exactly.
On that, I just want to put a I don't know, a toothpick in this, but the fact that we roll through Orban Monastery, defeat 3 Lucavi, and then kill the High Seraph in like one go is kind of trippy.
Yeah, it's almost like the Warrior of Light is overpowered as hell.
It's a snowball, okay? We start at the top of the hill. It's just a little bit, and as we continue rolling down the hill, we just steamroll over everything. It's
yeah, pretty
totally
much.
normal.
Additionally, Additionally, on this is the expansion where we get fucked up by base Xenos like 3 times. But we're just rolling through killing the High Seraph a little bit later.
Oh, no, yeah, like, if you want to talk about inconsistencies...
Power scaling issues?
If you want to talk about power scaling issues, imagine going to the first, a location that's still 1/14th its original etheric density, and not being able to defeat Ranjit your first time.
Thank you.
I will say, just for the sake of humor, though, what if Xenos is the reason we were able to kick all their asses? Because he pushed us to our limits.
It's our training montage.
No, it is funny, though.
Oh,
oh my god.
Hey, this is Final Fantasy. Okay, this is Final Fantasy. We kill demons and gods. People are a little more complicated.
oh man.
I mean, I guess if not just us, but other people can resort to their own dynamis.
I swear to God, if anyone in here swears by dynamis, I'm gonna set this room on fire!
Hey,
With dynamis.
What about holy stones as dynamis resonant crystals?
Okay,
Dynamis.
so I am willing to confer that Dynamis may act as a catalyst, but it has yet to be a fundamental source of power, period, for any character on the source. So, I am willing to entertain that, because even in-game, the lore has gone out of its way to say that scholars in Sharlayan that have studied Orisight have said there are noticeable similarities between these crystals and the summoning of primals. Almost like it's a similar equation creating a similar result. So, in this case, the 2 things required for primal summoning, Aether and Faith, are satisfied by this 1 stone, which would be the person's emotions and the energy already within the crystal. So,
it's actually really, really great that you brought that up, because speaking of Orisight and summons, when we were going through Amarat, there's all the talk about concept crystal.
Yes.
Oh, this is good.
Oh,
do you remember
then,
the lamps?
Of course, if you look at the Memoria crystals.
I'm going to let you take this.
Neela, go.
Oh, no, I was just saying that if you look at the Memoria crystals, they have the same little pattern on there. It could just be an nothing more than asset reuse, but I do have to look at it and be like, it's that little like interlocking diamonds pattern.
So I think what this is that the Memoria technique is the method that they would have used to make those crystals, and it's just a repurposed methodology or tool set imbued into the person, but that it's clearly making the same kind of crystal. And that has me really worried about all these Void Sending crystals were just popping out here.
What about you, Lanverly? You were saying?
I was just pointing out that like, do we know that the concept crystals weren't Orisight? Like,
I've been
we know
begging
extraordinarily little about the concept crystals, honestly.
I've been begging for a while for La Habre to just sit us down and give us the Auracite talk, explain the different types, what the differences is, how they function, because there's obviously like different kinds of holy stone, different kinds of Auracite, but it's not very clear what the distinctions are and why they're grouped together. If it's just, well, it's magical and it's a stone, or if there's actually an underlying commonality, which I think there
And-
is, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
When a
then
mommy
He would
crystal
be
and
the
a daddy
best to
crystal.
Tell us. He would be like probably the best to tell us. I would not be opposed to having, a very Charlayan, studium-esque
Mana chain
cutscene.
La Habre instead.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here's the heart of Sabik, and this is going to be my example.
Know you the source of these crystals?
Right.
This is the heart of Sabik. I'm
No, I
sure
don't,
you've
La Habre,
never
that's
seen
why
it
I'm
before.
asking.
I think, if I may, I think the main difference, because I actually, my only video apportation to this group effort was once a video on Auracite, narrated with my atrocious accent, which I will never do it again. But
You say that a lot.
because it's true. But anyways, I was going to say, the main difference is, I mean, we're not different to, sorry, we're not strangers to magical stones, crystals, whatever, throughout Final Fantasy. I mean, Final Fantasy 12's and the Ivalice series do have, of course, the two kinds of magicite and nethicite. Magicite is a stone crystal, whatever, that naturally has an amount of power. You can use the magicite to power up something, but once the energy is spent, that's all. You can recharge it. Nethicite absorbs magic, and you can unleash it, and then you can repower, kind of like a battery. And then, in fact, chronologically speaking, the first time we're introduced to Auracite is in Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings, which was the kind of sequel to 12 from the Nintendo DS. And the first thing, the first in evolution history that's Auracite mentioned is there with the eagle, the race of the eagle. And it turns out that for using, and they actually use this Auracite to summon the regular espers like Shiva, Ramu, Ifrit, blah blah blah. It's just that in exchange for these summoning powers, the summoner has to give, I don't recall the exact term, but it basically robs them of their emotions. So this going into tactics and stuff, and then pass into 14. The thing about not just, I mean, Auracite may well be like, you can, the difference between magicite and crystals anyway. Crystals in 14 are just, is basically condensed ether that just crystallized somewhere, and there's that. But whenever they've used the term Auracite, white Auracite meant to capture as like the soul of a sentient being. The Auracite using the person's soul or feelings to transform it into a Lucavi. I think it's now we can go into the Memoria crystal, which the name literally means memory. It implies more than just taking energy. More implies taking a part of yours, of a self. I don't know if it makes sense. I just rambled a bit here.
Summon spirits that take away emotions. Final Fantasy VIII would like to have a word.
So with all this talk about the Auracite and such, we know of a certain being in the raids that love to kind of mess around with it and handle it at the end of the Orban Monastery. You see her at the end. So you all know who she is.
Was this the one that's making it?
I think you know who I'm getting at.
Are they making it, or is it being made of them?
That
That's
is
the real
question,
question.
actually.
This is
Maybe
great.
maybe a little bit of both.
So I'd like to bring to the table the founder, whereas so she says, Ultima.
I am Ivalice.
I'm your mother. I am
Mother,
your
maker, I am
I-
Ivalice.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sonotic?
I do think it's funny how the lore in 14 is like, oh, you got some sources saying there's only like a handful of Orosite in the world, and then other accounts saying like there's thousands of crystals, and then you go see Ultima, the High Seraph, and you're like, oh yeah,
She's got a
she's
thousand
just
in her
ripping
feet.
them out.
yeah, look at these crystals kind of falling over themselves. No, yeah, six my ass.
Definitely not.
So
And in Bosnia, we have like they get the ghetto version of like Shem has
No,
it's
yeah.
a fate boss. Like this is kind of bonkers that you can just grab these rocks and go ham on it.
And not just that, you had that one NPC that was experimenting with Orosite, like fundamentally to try and get the most out of it. And of course, that reminded me of Sid from 12.
Nah.
Oh,
Behold the glow
mean,
manufactured
so
at
that
the site.
kind of yeah. I was actually about to bring that up. Like maybe it's kind of the difference between the defected nethicite and the manufactured nethicite, right? Like
Oh, I
the
see what you're going
defected
for.
nethicite, yeah, there's only a couple of these. But the
Yes, I
manufactured is
mean-
just everywhere. It's like you get a demon and you get a demon and I'm taking all of your souls.
Let's see. You take this rock, you turned into an Eldritch Abomination, you turned into a robot. Oh, wow. What we got over here?
But I mean,
Pretty
to
much.
be fair, now that you brought up Dr. Sid and the manufactured nethicite against the defected nethicite, I was kind of reminded of when you brought up so Ultima has like this stash of entire Orosite crystals, and I'm reminded of part of the plot of 12 was Diocleria sending Ash to cut whatever shards necessary to basically nuke Arcadia with the Treaty Blade from the Sun Crest, which I mean she kind of I mean, there's thanks to the intervention of Gabranth and Van, she kind of decides, well, I'm not going to pay blood for blood, and it's when Dr. Sid appears and he's like, but I do want to go to awaken Sky Fortress Bahamut for science, so screw you. and, so, and then Redas has to destroy the Sun Crest itself. It reminds me that I'm kind of reminiscing here, but I am remembering that we're throughout the story we're kind of given that there's only 3 pieces of defecting nethicite in the entire story, like the Dawn Shard, the Midlight Shard, and the Dusk Shard. But the Akuria actually told Ash that she could take this blade and just cut whatever necessary you need from the big crystal, you know?
Yeah.
So there's that.
So, the thing about the High Seraph, Ultima, that strikes me the most interesting is her backstory. How apparently she was summoned or brought forth by the first of the Zodiac Braves to challenge the Scourge. But in doing so, the people looked upon the High Seraph in terror and reverence, which fulfilled a requirement of primal summoning, instilling into her this personality or ego of being exactly as amazing as she thinks she is. So she became something new, despite only being brought forth to deal with a very specific problem. So if you wanted to stretch it out, you could say, oh, Dynamis was at play there, and that ultimately infected and changed I guess you would say, the programming of the High Seraph on a fundamental level. But what she became was, of course, something that needed to be sealed away by Heidelin herself, or her champions in the time at least. So
it was sealed away by Ramza and his comrades.
actually, that
but-
was the second time she was sealed away.
That's right.
Second time, yeah.
I'm playing
So-
the video from a person who had uploaded their YouTube. It was
So this goes out to both Xenotic and Lenverlai. Ultima is described as an extra-dimensional being that was summoned to the source ages ago by Saint Ajora. What are your thoughts on this?
Dimensional could mean literally anything.
I know. So what? I want to hear a bit of theory crafting here. What does that mean? Does that mean summoned from another shard? Does that mean summoned from another dimension? What does that mean? What are your thoughts?
So, extra dimensional, this could, if you wanted to really go crazy, you could say this is the same scale of magic dickery that went on in Shadowbringers, where another timeline quite literally invaded ours, completely separate from us in every way, shape, or form, and invaded ours. It could be the same thing. Ultima, as a concept, might have existed in another reality, but then I would question exactly how the heck did you specifically get her across dimensions in the first place, specifically? And the power needed to do that as well. That would have been extraordinary. To me, extra-dimensional being is a label some commoner would put on this entity, because they would have no other way of defining what they're looking at. So, in my mind, this may very well have been something as typical as a primal summoning or the release of an old concept or entity that existed back during the Unsundered Age, because that would explain her power. I do not believe for a second, personally, that she's from another timeline or reality or whatever. That feels a little too far-fetched. I don't think the writers have gone that off the board just yet. But
well, anyway.
I'm willing to entertain that she is an entirely unique thing that was introduced at that time period to solve a problem that nothing else could have done. And of course, got tainted by the thoughts and opinions of man into what we see today.
Lanverlai?
So I'm actually going with from another dimension. We have another mention of things outside of our universe and in Endwalker. When we're in Ultima Thule and we're talking to the Ia, they talk about an extra dimensional being that is just watching us. That is yet another wonderful bit of lore that is just, as all good bits of lore are, hidden inside the fishing log.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Speaking
I was gonna
of
say I hadn't
anybody
really
listening,
encountered that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much I would validate that, but
So-
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So there's a tendency when we're looking at a bunch of the lore that we get, they spread it across a lot of things. Usually like world related stuff usually ends up in like fishing log entries, right? Character related stuff ends up in like triple triad cards. And they kind of do that a lot. But yeah, the EBE 9318 is an outstandingly alien hailing from a dimension beyond our comprehension. And so I think it's possible that something was pulled in, but like we've been talking about, like just the sheer amount of power that would be needed, right? Um, we're 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 talking about with Ultima. This isn't a the Amal Jah bringing in Ifrit kind of thing.
This is
It
breaking the fabric
it's
of reality to
it
grab something and drag it over.
Yeah.
yes, like while for like like space time was not like a big deal for them. Like it took Grahatia like over 100 years and several screwed up attempts just to pull stuff between shards.
And not only that, if we're willing to entertain that this happened a really, really long time ago, you have to remember, like, every rejoining increased our etheric density. But back then, the world was only like 2/14 or 3/14 its original density. So they wouldn't have had enough magic power to do something miraculous.
But they can fly to the stars.
With
There's
the
space
introduction
rockets.
of Dynamis, it's not impossible that they were using that in lieu of ether, but we don't have any direct evidence, and it's been added so recently. It's really hard to say anything
There
about
is
Dynamis.
so little data on Dynamis
Yeah.
that I would not
It's
entertain it at all.
Yeah, no, that's 1,000% fair. I'm spitballing here.
Hey, also to be fair, people aren't equivalent.
Facts.
I don't think that anyone would argue about even at the beginning the Warrior of Light and Bateron having, similar levels of etheric capability.
Correct.
Maybe maybe the Saint was just pretty boss.
Powerhouse.
They never skipped leg day.
I keep thinking about this situation we've got here with Ultima when we're talking about the current state of the game, where we've got Elpis and Pandemonium, where they've directly stated that the plan is let's just cut this off from reality entirely. So like it was said earlier, like space-time stuff wasn't a problem for the ancients, and in fact, Omega says that it was a stage 4 civilization, and those don't exist. The inventor of those terms said that's impossible. So that's really interesting, especially when we look at the convocation sigils. And I think this has been run over multiple times now, but you remember my old conversation about maybe well before the first convocation groups, not our friends, frenemies, but their long departed predecessors, the originators of those sigils. Maybe they pulled from a forbidden power in a different dimension entirely. You remember that conversation I had?
Oh, yes.
That's actually what I was trying to say, that for me Ultima may have been Ultima and the Lucavi, because the glyphs of the convocation, it's not just the fragment parts that each one of the seats have. We know that they also know the entire glyph set. 3 of them are like engraved in Academia Nider's floor, corresponding to each words of whatever member of the convocation is.
Isn't one of them on
there's-
Erichthonios' hip?
Yes,
La
which
Habrea, yeah.
which La Habrea made for him. So yeah, and they actually used these things like La Habrea said that this is like if you stop and pause after the raids and stuff. La Habrea said that he made Erichthonius' spell to help him with ethereal control catalyst of sorts, because we know Erectonius isn't really good at magics. He's good with etherical bindings, but not in magics themselves. So La Habrea made this thing that has Matthew's glyph engraved in order to help him. We know too that the convocation glyphs, as said in that Q&A by Yoshi P and I don't know whoever else, that the glyphs are like the limiters, that like they act like, not sure if it's like you lift the limiter or a warning sign that you're using too much power, like when the Asians or the members of vocation tend to get angry, or they're about to transform, the glyph tends to pull, to show, and they say that technically they say that they acted like a limiter, right?
Yeah, he said the word limiter, and that's a problem because it implies that it's a seatbelt. And so the fact that they're channeling a ton of ether and it triggers makes sense. But the fact that we have La Habrea breaking half of his mask on purpose in Pandemonium means
Very
that
confusing.
it's not really a limiter. It's like literally unbuckling your seatbelt if you care enough.
He quite literally sundered himself.
Yes, he did literally sunder himself.
True. At the same time,
He's like, I did it before it was cool.
Yeah, I did. Heidelin is copying me.
But at the same time,
yeah, maybe he wrote a book on it afterwards, and that's how Vinod learned the technique.
Go ahead, Meowth.
But at the same time, the fact that La Habrea's mask manifested last split when he sundered his soul, so to speak, would imply that this. I mean, we already have that, because you remember Gaia. Gaia was never awakened by any sort of crystal convocation memory. It was only awakened by remembering what Mitran's memories, and the glyph manifested by itself. It wasn't given to her, so it means that glyph is imprinted, burned in her soul, whether she wants it or not.
Branded,
so
if you will.
It means, yeah. So so when La Habrea sundered part of himself, makes sense that when he was ripping part of his soul, the mask also, if it was tied to his soul, it would show the damage as well. Then again, these things relating to the soul, knowing that the aura site related to the Lucavi are also tied to how soul. I mean, the aura site takes your soul, rewrites it, and gives it back to your body, and basically that's what Nicotum kind of implies. So these things are actually making me think the Lucavian story may go so as far as to be even the early history of the ancients. Maybe they did have a god once. Maybe they did have once gods. And then the first original Zodiac Braves, the original convocation, defeated them and stole part of their power in order to protect their society. Maybe that's because if not, then why are there glyphs there? I mean, and I don't know if it makes any sense.
That is some wonderfully interesting speculation.
Thanks.
The convocation being the first people in the Final Fantasy XIV history to kill God.
We ascended Mount Olympus before you.
Story tradition.
We can do a better job. You take a seat.
We were talking before, if I might return to the topic of interdimensional stuff. Someone, I think it was Meowth, was talking about how the ancients have indeed, conquered things like space and time. Well, they have like these pocket dimensions. We see it in what you call it, that dungeon, Thesis Hyperborea. We see that they can just sort of fold space away. It could be that something was folded away, trapped, locked in a pocket dimension of space, and then was summoned forth and became Ultima. Just that just occurred to me when she was talking about that.
No,
if it was something they'd sealed away, that is not necessarily incompatible with the convocation defeated the gods and locked them up thing either. Actually,
yep.
I don't know. Just a thought.
How'd you become stage 4? Oh, nothing.
You know, that
Don't
actually,
worry about it. Don't ask too many
funny-
questions.
the funny thing with that too would be that because it's very Greek mythology, that you could also like read some Titanomachy into that, and being like they're the second generation of deities that did that, and now we're the third.
Oh, actually, I like that. That's kind of that's an interesting tie. It's very good.
You know, it's funny that you bring up the Greek gods with this, because hopping right on back to Final Fantasy 12. I mean, I'm not saying that Vana in 12 is basically
let's do it.
Prometheus,
Let's
but
do it. Let's go into
what?
this. The Acuria.
Okay.
Good call.
Oh, it's a heretic.
So let's start
Is
this
that a
off.
trigger word?
Apparently. Let's start off with the most important thing. The Acuria are bastards. But yeah, no. We have Vana as one of the Acuria. And their story is not all that dissimilar from Prometheus giving man fire. They give the Nethicite to the Arcadians so that they can, take control. So they can
kind
have
of-
control
Sorry.
of their, destiny.
They give power to the individuals they see as the ones most likely to go in a certain historical direction that they feel is correct. Essentially, gently guiding the people of the Final Fantasy XII world through history rather than letting them write their own. Which is why Sid, of course, keeps repeating over and over about the reins of history back in the hands of man and stuff like that.
Yes, Vena will basically decided to give them limitless power, and well, it happened that this limitless power, as Vane Solidor understood it, was basically conquer the rest of the continents, Valendia, Ordelia. I don't remember, and never remember the third one. Fuck. unite them to prevent more wars and become the next Dyna's king. So yeah, great job, Vanna.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, her methodology makes sense because if the Yokuria were constantly making sure that power, absolute destructive power, was being gatekept behind things they controlled, then no one would ever become too strong to essentially dominate the world without their express permission. Vana broke that cycle by handing over trade secrets to normal-ass people.
So here's a question, since I'm not as versed in Ivalice lore. Do we ever see the Acuria once the sun it was the Sun Crest, right, that was destroyed?
Chris,
Like
yeah.
were they doing this to maintain control and to maintain power, and now they're out of power? Like, were they threatened by man? I don't remember seeing them in anything else, but I could just not be aware of it.
So in Final Fantasy XII, what happened after the Sun Crest was destroyed was more or less just the rest of the plot of the game involving the mortal races and such like that. After Lady Osh basically denies the Yokuria their right to govern the world, you don't hear from them anymore. The only Yokuria you see for the rest of the game is Vana.
Interesting.
It could be that they got upset and took their ball and went home, because
Quite
that
possible.
seems like a very them thing to do. Meanwhile, Vana is like, okay, yeah, I gave everybody fire, and they set everything on fire because, of course, they did.
It's fire.
So
Because why
I'm gonna watch
not?
this play out, right? But the rest of them, we don't know if destroying the Suncrest destroyed them, or if they just effed off saying, okay, yep, we're done. Just washing our hands of this. We're going to go find somewhere else to be
There's another
douchebags.
possibility, and it's that if the Suncrest destruction affected Yokuria, then Vena, being Yokuria, should have been affected, but no, she's still there. She only got killed, dispersed, when she fused with Vayne to Forbidden Dying. But what interests me about this is the continuation of the evolution story ages, because we know that because of Vena's action of destroying the Suncrest, which was actually it happened to be like one of the major sources of mist or ambient magic in the world. The Ivalice started to get dry on magic itself. The Okuri are made of magic, so to speak, of mist. So if and by Final Fantasy Tactics 8, the time by Final Fantasy Tactics time, there's that there's basically no surviving race except the humans, and most of the magic in Ivalice has disappeared, which actually caused many extinctions, many wars, and all the like. So yeah, first, good job, Benat, again, and second, in my will that because of not in the moment, but after Ivalice, when drained of ether, if you want to call it, the Akuria themselves couldn't sustain their forms. So F.
No, yeah, I mean, when you look at the story from an objective point of view, Vana won. She got exactly everything she wanted in the 12 story.
And hey, you know what? Maybe that's okay. Maybe that is okay that Vana won. Okay, yes. So magic went away. Yeah. How had they really been doing with that whole magic thing anyway? That definitely, yeah, definitely wasn't causing them any problems whatsoever. It's basically like you just decided to stop giving children, knives.
A knife.
It's not inaccurate.
But at the same time, the disappearance of magic is hardly a thing that hasn't been done in Final Fantasy VI. I haven't played, but at least I know this much. There's a bit of that in the 13th trilogy, but anyway. Still, it's kind of it's not the magic thing that really may take issue in particular. It's that the actions led to more wars that actually had happened in evolution history, and the extinction of let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, at least 8 races entirely.
I mean, do we know that those wars weren't going to happen anyway? I mean, just looking at 12, these aren't the most, peaceful groups of people.
They had a lot of holy wars, and I mean a lot.
Yeah.
Holy war, Batman. But yes.
You look at basically Final Fantasy Tactics, and you see the world. You compare it with Final Fantasy 12 Ivalice, and you're like, well, that really didn't go really well.
Yeah, so the only problem I have with that is there's so much time between 12 and Tactics that correlation equaling causation, it's really, really hard to say that one led to the other. One probably made the other easier, right? Because you know, uh, a wizard with a fireball is the fantasy genre's great equalizer. But yeah, I don't think that one completely led to the other. Is all I'm saying.
In the evolution chronology, like the only normal stable world that we kind of glimpse is basically Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, in which the world of Ivalice has reached, like at the time, I would guess it was like 2000, the 2000s equivalent level of technology, Earth equivalent, and still they have fucking remnant grimoires that can fuck up the world based on 4 kids' wishes, you know.
Hey,
So
never
there's
underestimate the power of a group of 4 roughly teenage protagonists. Okay.
no, I know, I don't underestimate that. I adore the Tactics Advance cast, and every time I replay it, as I've grown older, because it was my first Final Fantasy, and I played when I was 7 years old, and I already related to Marche and the group. But as I grew older, I realized how deep the game actually is. So yeah, sorry about the rumble, but yeah, I mean, at least they got sort of technological era. So there's that. So, but still, remnants of really weird grimoires.
You've got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Okay.
Well, Sarah, Neela, did you have any questions?
I had my say earlier.
What about you, Fal? Is there a topic that you'd like to bring up besides Ultima? Because I know you and the rest of the cast, including me, were really specific on that subject because we really wanted to talk and kind of discuss whether or not it was an extra dimensional being or not. What other subjects would you like to bring up?
This is very surface level, but it's nice to note that the tactics universe stuff being interwoven in this game has pretty much been since the beginning, with A Realm Reborn, or even the job stones themselves. I mean, the stones are... They contain all of the knowledge of our abilities, and we're getting them from places. They're not just appearing out of nowhere. In a lot of ways, these are Auracite as well. And, you know, if you take off your job stone, I know it's a game mechanic, but you lose most of your abilities. So as we're leveling, we're kind of unlocking deeper and deeper knowledge, and that is the only excuse I can give to learning Demi-Phoenix and Shadowbringers without a quest. But god damn it. But no, I mean, with the relic quests in that part of the game, it's just been nice to see Final Fantasy Tactics represented in this title the whole way through.
In its own unique way.
Correct.
I mean, it's very evident that Yoshipi is Yasumi Matsuno fanboy, because the entire you could like I mean, we're used to Final Fantasy, all the Final Fantasies, other titles references in plots and the like, but some of them are like more obvious than others, and Tactics or Ivalice, it's almost like feels like a natural part of the world of Etheris. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, we got the Ivalice raids, and of course they were named after Ivalice and stuff, but they already had the groundwork for these raids to make perfect sense in 14 context. Like, not something they just copy pasted there. Like, now you got your raid. I don't know if
Okay.
I make sense.
It does. So I've got to ask a slightly trolly question at this point, because I wouldn't be me if I didn't. Everyone would be disappointed. So since Tactics and Final Fantasy 14 been together for a while, Geomancer when?
You know what? Thank you for your trolley question. There
We
are a
can
lot
just
of
go back
jobs.
we can just go back to Kugane and ask them about
Ask that
geomancy.
dude. Yeah. So in this game, there are a lot of the classic jobs that are represented but not playable through whatever quirks of game development, or that would be OP, or that doesn't. If we made it a regular battle job, it wouldn't adhere to the class fantasy that the original titles, Blue Mage, felt like, or whatever series of pseudo cop outs they might figure out later. But Geomancer's in the game. It's the Astrologian quests in Stormblood. This is the reason I leveled Astro past Heaven's Ward, although I love it now, is because I heard that this quest existed. And there's an entire sect of Geomancers that are defunct in Kugane, and it appears to be using the same style of power, except instead of reaching to the stars, they're literally just reaching underfoot. And since this game refers to all planets as stars, that is fine. It's completely lore friendly, and the Swallow's Compass dungeon is filled with Geomancer NPCs. So, wish we could play it. Wish we could play it.
Made entire videos about this very subject.
I wish we could
I
play it.
know.
It's the same with Beastmaster, which is all across Bosnia.
Yeah,
they're all over the place.
Yeah, there are a couple of other classes that are around. One of which I would speculate is a boss that we fought. The Calculator.
The arithmetician.
Bringing those
Very
troll
much.
jokes.
The arithmetician? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a robot.
Yes, it's a robot. The Oracle. We have an Oracle of Light, right? We haven't really seen a mediator unless we're going to give Alphino a new class.
I love it.
But hear me out here. New limited job mime.
Can you imagine the gameplay quest line?
I thought you were
in
going
the
to say
MMO?
Beastmaster, and then it's like, that's a given.
No. just
How
mime.
dare you want to create Blue Mage 2.0?
I mean,
we would be sticking to tactics were the Lions' jobs. If you add the entire roster of jobs from Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2, they really have a lot of leeway to invent new jobs. And there are some of them that, sure, like for example, we have some of them made into Disciple of the Hand, of Disciple of the Land, like Alchemist, which is one of my favorite jobs in Tactics Advanced Tactics 2, made into a crafter job. And I'm like, I want to throw meteors to people. but fine. Sage, it's like Sage. I mean, Sage already existed, but in tactics context, I wanted to basically fire lasers to people with the scathe. But fine. But yes, I mean, which was do we have a job for Mel with job with the
Corsair!
Corsair? Okay.
She is
I
not
really
a Corsair.
She is totally a Corsair.
Anyone who's played Final Fantasy XI knows she has shown only like one of half a dozen aspects of a Corsair.
That doesn't
That's
matter.
fair.
This isn't 11.
Yeah.
She's going to be a Corsair.
Good lord!
And more importantly,
For the audience
Corsair
members,
will share gear with Ninja so that you can actually have roguish looking glams for Ninja.
About time.
okay, so for the members of our audience that haven't played Final Fantasy XI and don't know what a Corsair is, imagine if a gunslinger and an astrologian had a baby. They're able to play with their cards, but they have a gun instead. There you go. You have Corsair.
I'm a healer, but
Huh.
That is a very, very good description.
I wish I could find this, and our friend Moose, all of our friend Moose, could tell us probably. But I believe there was a resource in either during the 1.0 era or the very early ARR era where the devs talked about them wanting to have implemented Corsair, but not being able to for whatever reason. And
Do
So,
they know that it was
because of your
1.0?
description, does that mean they just carry around a globe made of guns?
No, think about
No,
a
you're thinking
pirate
of
that
a
always
sage.
has a deck of cards in their pocket.
That's what I mean. They have a deck of cards in their pocket, but they carry around a globe of guns.
Global.
Don't forget
That's
the
just
dice.
sage.
That's just sage.
Don't forget the dice. Too,
That's where it
Scribe.
came from. Now we know.
We gotta roll them bones.
But
okay?
no, yeah. Honestly, we see evidence that they very well may have planned for there to be like a gun class at some point, because over at the Coral Tower in Limsa, you see what looks like a class symbol at the Marauders
Yes.
Guild. So they very well had that. They did have that planned, but as we all know, Yoshi P or at least members of his development staff were not fans of the class system.
Yes,
So
if
It
you
almost
look
got
at-
the Sentinel treatment.
If you look at Raynor, he's our resident gun-toting guy and has been since before Machinist was a thing. But yeah, but back to your thing about Moose. Yeah, I am almost certain that was 1.0, and that became one of the victims of the
Great Purge.
we have to completely remake this game. Because if you go downstairs in the Marauders Guild, you have the group of Marauders doing their thing with their axes, and then you have a couple of people with pistols that are shooting at targets downstairs. It's a very, swashbucklery kind of class, right? It's a pirate. Let's just
Yeah,
call
it's a pirate. Corsair is a
let's
fancy
just
word
call
for
it-
pirate anyway.
Exactly.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2 had Viking job, so there's that. Though they use the Viking job in Tactics Advance 2 has it basically you can either wield an axe, you can either wield a hammer. So it was basically a mix. It was a physical magic hybrid because they could cast the 3 levels of thunder spells, and I think there was a couple of water abilities, but yeah, Magic Knight basically. That was basically Viking.
no, yeah, and I feel bad whenever I bring this up, but we're likely never gonna see Geomancer as a playable job, mostly because that ground technically has already been tread.
Yeah, I know, but it has to be brought up at every opportunity.
Yeah,
and
let's go
what
ahead and hear it.
happens.
Let's go ahead and hear it. Why?
All right. Technically, from a lore standpoint, the Geomancers are just Eastern conjurers with essentially some astrologian abilities tossed in.
That's right.
The-
Astro abilities. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you marry the divination power of an astrologian with the earthly powers of a conjurer, boom, you got Geomancer. It really is that simple. I mean, Geomancer has access to the same 3 elemental categories that Geomancer does: wind, earth, and water. Simple fact is, White Mage grew out of that eventually, and eventually they decided that White Mage should go more along this light motif. So, if they introduce Geomancer, how would they do that without completely stepping over Conjurer's toes, essentially?
Well, it could just be aggressive conjurer that uses sealing techniques and astrologian abilities that specifically inherit from Aetheris rather than the distant worlds.
It could just be a DPS instead of
That's
a healer.
right.
How
That's
about that?
That's what I mean by
Yeah.
aggressive.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking. if
Here's
you
the thing,
remember,
I
had
can-
supports in the class.
You remember
then
when
that would
Arun and
work.
Endwalker walks up to in Garlemald and he's like, "Fucking stop fighting"? Do you remember that scary elemental animation that came out of him.
Yeah. But I
So
mean,
yeah, angry white mage.
white mages,
Angry white mage.
white mages are angry, are murderers, and you should never mess with them. I think that's everything we can all agree with.
We all
14.
covered that last time.
Yeah, the only way I could see them logically introducing Geomancer into Final Fantasy XIV is if they used Conjurer as a base, and they have visibly shown that they want nothing to do with the classes anymore.
That's fair. Although I might have a slight. I don't know if I fully agree because of its presence in a completely different culture, right? So Conjury in Gridania is going to be different from whatever's over there in.
The methodology may be different, but
Well,
the essence
training,
is the
ethics.
same.
We're exactly barred from seeing Geomancer. Like, for example, do you remember the astrologian quests? That the difference between Charlayan astrology and Ishgardian astrology. Ishgardian astrology doesn't use magic to heal nor to harm. It's just a reading, a star reading technique. Whereas Charlayan astrology does use that power offensively and for healing. So it doesn't have to be like for example, you may have Hingan geomancy left there and act as a Hingan conjurer if you want. But if you want to have like a special sect or a special group or guild of different geomancers that may actually use this power in a different way, they completely could.
That's what I mean.
So-
It's a similar
yeah.
power set, but different. It could be distinct culturally.
Exactly.
It could be level 80 unlock. It could be more.
Oh yeah, like what I'm saying is that it
or
isn't
for example, the difference between Garlean Gunblades and Bosian Gunblades.
Okay, so I feel like I need to reiterate then.
Go
What
ahead.
I'm drawing here is not simply disproving it from a lore standpoint. From a lore standpoint, there's nothing stopping the Warrior of Light from becoming a Geomancer. Period. End of story. But from
Mechanically.
a game design perspective, mechanically, we've seen that the developers are loath to tread ground that technically has already been walked, which unfortunately Conjurer already has, and as Astro has proven, technically Astro has as well. So essentially they'd be creating the same motif of Astro just with the earthly magics of a Conjurer,
Yeah.
which they have again proven themselves against doing the same thing twice. And I respect them for that.
It's just
Y-
like
you
what you said with
know-
Corsair. We've got Machinist. We're not going to get Corsair.
Exactly.
I really love that all of this came from me just doing the obligatory Geomancer win, which is when you think about it, it is the new version of Dancer win,
Yeah.
because we were saying that for forever. But I do think that there is a red magey like ranged physical DPS spot that Corsair could fit in one day.
Maybe it uses.
I'm going to
Infire
continue
and
to hope
stuff,
for that.
and fire and endstone and stuff like that.
No. Not doing any like magic stuff. I mean, like a physical ranged that also has a melee phase.
Got it. That makes sense.
So they have like a rapier. Well, not a rapier, but you know, something.
Yeah, I was about to say, so it's just physical red mage now. What?
We just get Wolverine claws instead.
Not. So like a cutlass, right?
I mean, the claws,
and
the
a-
claws would make sense, even though there's Monk already.
I mean, at that point, why not just do Puppet Master?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm trying to think what Geomancers use in tactics. I think in the original tactics they can equip swords, but in Tactics Advance 2 they use poles. Like they basically hit you with this kung fu pole sort of that.
Or staff. Yeah.
Not exactly this like magic staff. It's like a straight pole, and they hack you with that. So yeah. I'm kind of imagining. I don't know. Do you guys? Any of you have played Guild Wars? Guild Wars 2?
Yes, I played Guild Wars. I played a little bit of Guild Wars 2.
I have
Okay.
played
Yeah.
Guild Wars 2, but none of the expansions because I wasn't able to
Okay.
make any friends in that game.
Okay, fine. I was going to mention about if you play the expansions and you pick a rogue and you play the Daredevil stylization, they use this pole like in. It's like I mean the staffs are usually for magic users, but they use the staff instead for hacking and being like, well, you know, it's not a nunchuk, but kind of. Kind of big stick. Yeah.
You're
It's a
talking about
big
you're talking about the big stick that's in 3 parts with chains in between.
The 3
Right.
section staff.
Yeah.
But I mean, they kind of use it like a pole, basically. It's
Okay, yeah.
like,
So it's just a quarterstaff. It's just a
Yeah.
quarterstaff. That was like an iconic like 2nd edition D&D monk weapon.
If we're getting any kind of staff-like weapon, we better be getting the frickin' twin blades that Zidane used in Final Fantasy IX.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, y'all remember
would
that
be-
one?
That would be very welcome.
Honestly, I can easily imagine it. Like some sort of agile, dexterity-based class that uses scouting gear like a ninja, but uses that weapon.
We are overdue
Yeah.
to see another class using scouting gear.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Hell,
Yeah.
if they want to get creative with it, they could say that job comes out of Corvus, since they want to talk about it so much lately.
I love the tone you put on that. The utter
Well,
shade.
look, okay, my beef with that is like everyone is suddenly talking about, oh, Corvus. They literally just brought it up.
But they brought it up 5 times.
Oh,
They
yeah,
won't
oh, wow.
stop it. They won't. It's like in Stormblood when they kept saying Storm of Blood in the main story. I'm like, will you stop
my
it?
God. Exactly.
They- people just want.
If you want me to be excited about Corvus, you know what you need to do? Uncloud
Give it-
Ilsabard.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, give it back to the Guardians.
Quick, somebody
Spanish cough
link
again.
somebody link the picture.
Was it a picture you made?
It's a picture that Scribe made, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, the one of my fans made. Here.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
post it in the chat here.
Going to be controversial, but the people, the actual reason Corvus is given such a big deal, it's not even Reaper. It's just because it revealed Grahatias from there. Period. That's all.
There we go.
You're just saying it's pure thirst. I want to see all the other red-haired Mikos.
Yeah, I'm saying that now. Kill me.
We do every cast.
I meant like in lynching, but yeah.
Oh, man. Ilsa. Still mad about them not on Cloud and Ilsabard. Yeah, there it
Everyone's
is.
enjoyment. There it is.
Look at it. Behold.
Behold.
Cast your gaze upon this ritual.
Honestly, the fact that someone drew that immediately after my panel during LunarCon, absolutely, I was over the fucking moon.
It's fantastic.
It is super weird that it's all clouds.
It
Guys,
really is.
You know what? This to me it reeks of. They haven't quite decided how to draw Corvus, and they haven't quite decided how to deal with Landis yet. The Republic of Landis.
Oh, no! I call no balls.
Oh, I'm not
I
saying
call no balls on the writing team.
no balls.
No, here's the thing. ARR has been next year.
Yeah.
ARR will have had its 10-year anniversary, people. 10 years! And you still don't have one of your continents mapped out? What the fuck are you doing over there?
It's not important. They're doing an inside out world building.
Oh, crap.
Things only need to be mapped once they actually become important.
Okay, they can say that about the New World and Muricidia, not about a place we've been to half a dozen times already.
That's fair.
Xenotic's temporizing.
No, that's fair. We've been there. We've been there. There's no
Hey,
map.
you know
Ilsabard
what?
should be more expanded upon.
You know what?
Hmm.
Just because they're going to hear you say that, Scribe, there's going to be just a little line from Alamigo up to Garlemald
Just uncloud the
that's
part we've been
unclouded.
to.
Oh wow, they uncloud the section where Wurlit is.
Yeah, maybe
and that's it.
Maybe they'll add a little bit of a teaser for where Thancred wandered during Stormblood up that way.
Frickin', they even put it in like the housing items, saying like, due to feedback from a certain researcher, we decided to uncloud this little tiny section.
Exactly, Coberon. It's
Oh
just
my
going to have the
God.
flight path for the Ilsabard contingent. That's the only part, and it's just going to be mountains.
Oh my
No, yeah, and honestly, it's just weird from a storytelling point of view now, because we've been to the moon, we've seen the world from orbit, and you can very much see that Ilsabard isn't nearly as cloudy as the lore wants to tell you it is. So it's like, come on, y'all, you're not even trying anymore.
Hey,
Hey,
the
the moon
Iron
doesn't
Heart's
actually
a break.
orbit, apparently. Have you ever looked at Atheris from the moon?
Yeah, it's stationary.
Rip.
yeah,
It's weird.
Synodic, I'm just gonna need you for just a little while longer to cut the Iron Hearts some slack, okay?
No. Alright, I'm done.
Oh,
For now.
Coberon says there is no sun on the moon.
Not until we get the little sun up there.
Oh my god. Maybe he'll find his Nama up there.
I found your.
I'm getting second degree burns over here
Listen,
just from having heard that.
I would love his Nama to actually be a Loporrit, and that's the end of his story.
Okay, Fow, you're grounded.
Why? That's the funniest thing I've said all day.
So yeah, Ivalice.
They're Loporrits there, right? Oh wait, they're called Moogles.
They're called
Oh,
You're
yeah,
grounded.
yeah.
I don't want to
I,
picture
pre-
that.
I very much prefer the evolution Moogles to the Loporrits.
Yeah, real talk though, Final Fantasy 12 Moogles are my favorite iteration of them.
Oh, they're so good.
So let's talk about them then.
Hmm.
Mont Blanc is great.
We could address the races of Ivalice in 14 contexts.
We might as well, because Moogles are a part of that. Mont Blanc, especially. So who would like to go first? Mindfly, Sonotic.
Scribe, take it away.
I just finished a rant. Are you sure you want that?
Oh, well, I mean, you're already prepped to go on another rant about Moogles, and I would hate to ruin your pacing.
Oh, you know what then? Let's keep this shit train rolling. So,
Just pulls up another box.
So honestly, look, I have nothing against the design for Moogles in Final Fantasy XIV because Moogle designs have changed in every Final Fantasy iteration, like since the very beginning. I mean, just look at Crystal Chronicle Moogles, for example. They don't even have arms in that one. They carry things with their mouths. Yeah.
Oh God.
It's weird. They're just
Jesus Christ.
they're little balls of fluff with legs. So
Crystal Chronicles was so weird.
yeah, Crystal Chronicles was weird, but
Please enjoy this.
oh,
Crystal Chronicles was a weird game, but it was very fun, especially with friends.
I very much agree with that. Crystal Chronicles.
I
has
really
some good
need to get the
memories.
remaster.
It's not as good.
No.
Yeah, see, there it is. They have no arms.
Ugh.
They're still happy though. I don't know how they put on clothes, but hey.
I want that outfit.
But yeah, so Moogles have like changed their iterations in every single game. But the reason Final Fantasy XII to me sticks out the most is because they're not treated like some sort of comic relief or cute little side character. They actually fulfill roles in the society of that world. They're engineers, they're magicians, court mages, and stuff like that. Heck, some Mughals are even able to perform roles of like gladiatorial combat and become knights. So, despite their diminutive like stature, they are completely integrated into society. They're treated with respect, have a variety of things that they can accomplish, and without losing that cute little profile. They're still small, they're still fuzzy, they got the big ears, the palm on their head, the little bat wings. But in my opinion, if I was like to walk through a world and see Mughals introduced in a society, that's what I would imagine to be the closest thing to, I'd say, an accurate living creature. Not the mostly head and torso Mughals we see in 14, or the armless Mughals in Chronicles. So, that's just my personal take.
I'm imagining the Crystal Chronicle Mughals eating.
So
Just
so
like
speaking
birds.
of our Mughals in 12, Clan Nutsy, right?
Clan
Came
Centurion
back.
also, right?
Yeah. Came back and so Centurio was for Heaven's Word, and Clan Nutsy was for Shadowbringers. And,
Oh yeah, I got that.
Who was the leader of Clan Nutsy?
It was a Moogle.
It
I'm trying to
was.
remember his name.
Neither can I, because I don't think that they ever give you
I don't know
like
that they
any
gave us a
quests.
name. They just gave us that he was very bloodthirsty, and was like so much so that the Veer
Wasn't his
It's
name
blank.
Nutsy?
He was
Wasn't his name just Nutsy?
well, no.
It
Okay,
could have
so
been, I don't
That's
remember.
what I'm
a
thinking
group
too.
of it's yeah. So it was founded by Marsh and Montblanc, and it was initially founded by Montblanc.
So
wait. Are we talking about the one on the source or the first?
On the first.
Talking about
Okay,
because we meet Mont Blanc during the Ivalice quest chain, of course.
yes.
Of course.
Brother Hardy, which is who is vaguely mentioned in 12, but is a party member in Tactics Advance 2. And it's about.
No, yeah, this Muggle's just named Nutsy.
Yeah. But yeah, both Clan Nazi,
Yeah,
is the
never
default
mind,
name
yeah.
for from Tactics Advance. Clan Centurio is from Tactics Advance 2. No, Clan Centurio was designed for 12, and then kind of made a paid, and they were made into the ultimate challenge in Tactics Advance 2. In one tournament, yeah. I still remember, for many reasons, that beating that goddamn tournament. But yes, I'm actually really personally happy that they just don't reference Final Fantasy 12 and the first Tactics, but that they also mix in Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2. Because I mean, I was raised Nintendo, so
Yeah, so that was during my like divorce from Nintendo, so I completely missed the Tactics Advance games.
play it.
It's a great game.
Yes, Shadow. So we have the Muggles, right? So we have them. The other big one that came from Tactics and 12 that everybody will want to hear about is Vieira. Everyone's favorite person, Fran. Right?
The race that everyone didn't shut up about until Shadowbringers.
Honestly, I'm
Exactly.
still surprised they did that, honestly.
I absolutely have no complaints about the Viera. I like the Viera. They are so OP in the Tactics series, and I really like that they finally got the male Viera version, since it was like one of the biggest evolution mysteries. Are they male Vieras?
Because I was gonna say we never actually saw Mel Vieira before 14.
No, they have never been made an appearance until 14.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
They were hiding in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah. And we also got I think we got all the basic. There's only one race that we didn't got from Ivalice, maybe two, because we got the Numo, even though the source. Sorry, the first. We got the Numo. We got the Banga, of course.
I love the Banga. They are probably
Yes.
my favorite addition because they're just they're such a fun race to look at, right?
But don't ever call them lizards. I was
The
going to
Seek
say
were introduced as well.
the Seek, yeah, but the Seek were 12 and Tactics Advance 2. They weren't in Tactics Advance. But I like the Seek too. There were two was kind of Banga, Hume, Mughal, Viera, Numo, Seek, and then there's in 12 you can in 12 you meet the Rev of the Rev Gaji, which you meet in Bujerba. They're like a bit of lion people. They have a sub race, the Rev Gaji. One of them is playable in Tactics 1-2. And then we got in exclusive from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2, it's the Gria, which they are basically. I mean, I'm not going to say they're like Aura, but I can see the inspiration since they're like dragon girls. But yeah,
So one thing I was actually kind of surprised hasn't shown up yet from any of the Ivalice stuff is the Agile.
true. I forgot about the Egil. Kill me.
Because like it seems like such an easy thing to have added in. And I don't know, maybe we'll get something like them later, but I mean, it's basically just a Midlander with wings.
I mean, you also gotta think, like, there are some circles that say the events in Revenant Wings aren't even canon in the first place.
Mm,
So I guess that would be totally up to them.
I
There's a
mean,
lot of games like that. So
I mean, so the whole thing though is that we do hear we do hear about something that could have been the Agile in Tactics, right? With the floating castle.
True.
About winged people that could transmute cloudstone into crystals.
Yeah, I mean, in which case, because we know Tactics was first, they would have devised the Agile and the Revenant Wings plotline in reverse, even though chronologically Revenant Wings would have happened before Tactics.
Yes, I was going
They
to
base.
clarify that. Like that's always the thing that that's so weird with the Ivalice stuff is getting everywhere in its right spot on a timeline because it's
Backwards.
like it's like with Ace Combat. Like there are games that take place way earlier that come out way later. Um,
It's like Drakengard 3.
Drakengard, Jesus.
but yeah. Am I missing something? I mean, I know I'm not counting Vagrant Story here, but yeah.
How many people out of this group have actually played Vagrant Story recently enough to remember it?
I watch it, not
Ow,
play it
maybe?
myself.
No, I played it the one time. I mean, it stuck with me, but I couldn't remember 2/3 of the details. But I do remember the journey, and I actually think I liked the game more before I realized you could exploit the combat system by just taking, I forget even what the combat was called, but there's like a menu based, just keep using the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and it just kind of lines up all the moves so it doesn't feel as much like an action adventure crawl anymore. But I did end up beating it.
Yes, so the combat in that one reminded me a whole lot of Parasite Eve.
Yeah, that's true. And they're a similar era too.
Yeah.
But
Did we
yeah,
get anything from Vagrant Story really in 14?
not really. We
Uh,
have the city, right? We have the
Yeah.
city.
We have Le Mans, right?
Yeah, Leomond we have, and it's a province of Garlemald, now defunct empire. It's a place we could go. It's a place because of Vagrant Story we could see the next deep dungeon. There's a lot of places like that in this game where if they
Now
had
I
the
need to speak
development,
on it.
if they had the development
also,
resources, there are several places we could get another deep dungeon. And
there is also Valnain. Valnain is in
Valnain.
Naxia.
Valnain, yep.
Mhm.
And the wandering dramaturge speaks of former, I think it was former Zodiac Graves,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
he
Ashley's
mentions Ashley,
Mhm.
the priestess Mullenkramp.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's another name from Vagrant Story there, but yeah,
Mullenkamp was the
there's
organization that is not exactly the villains, but you kind of are
Mhm.
antagonized by them throughout.
yeah. And there's the Necrohole of Moulon, who that Necrohole Moulon actually doesn't look like the Necrohole Moulon in Tactics. It looks like more Lemond in Vagrant Story.
And in the cutscenes for the Resistance Weapon storyline, the ships and the Garlean soldiers that are seen in this kind of like bright city like landscape is Valnain.
So again, it just comes down to development resources and also where they would fit that in the gameplay. But it's all here. I would love to see it, man. That would be a blast. I would love to see Lemond.
And the thing with Leomond is spoilers for those who haven't read all of the Bosnia articles yet, but it's supposedly the place that it's either Leomond or Valnain that Gabranth and what was his general's name?
Leon from Helsos.
Yes, Leon, where they retreated to, and Leon set the city on fire or whatever, or killed him. But they found his body, but they don't know if it was his body or not.
It's unidentifiable. It reads like political intrigue for sure.
Which is total Matsuno.
Yep. But yeah, one of the initial NPCs that got transmuted by the Save the Queen was from Lemond, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the annoying bow and arrow lady? Who limit breaks every 5 seconds?
I haven't done my memory. My memory of Bodja can be a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody else, huh?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to poke at Ivalice about? What about just with you two? Lanverly and Sonotic, what about you? What are some topics that you'd like to bring to the table? Not just with you two, but with us. What do you guys want to discuss with us?
Honestly, I'm kind of on the same boat as what was said just a moment ago. They uncovered these locations on Othar's map, and of course, Chekhov's gun. Follow those rules. If you're going to show it and talk about it, involve it to some degree. Because we have the Vieira, whose ancestral home is the Gilmoran jungle. We can see the Gilmoran jungle right there. Yet we know next to nothing about it and next to nothing about the historical heritage of the Vieira, which is very upsetting to me. Because it's like, you have this playable race, you have this location, and you're showing it. But you're not using it. Why? And I would love, if I could ask them, anyone on the development staff, those questions. That's, what I think I would ask. Because I would love to know, is it simple time crunch? Is it a financial thing? Or is it simply the fact that 14 from the beginning hasn't exactly been a story-focused game? So is it simply the fact that you're not looking to create an expansive world with all these locations you can visit and things you can see and interact with, and you're just kind of revealing it for the sake of world building? I don't know. I would love to see more, especially since they have gone out of their way to name drop locations like Corvus more than once already. And honestly, they haven't even gone out of their way to uncloud Bozia yet, despite the fact that we've been there already. So, I don't know. There's tons of potential. There's always potential for this game. And honestly, that's the most fearsome part, I feel, about being a content creator, or a lore content creator for this game. There's so much potential, and to see it just get skipped over or glossed over is like, it's unfortunate in my mind. It's unfortunate, but totally want to see more.
Yeah, so I had really kind of been hoping that we would get to go back to the Dalmasca area proper, for maybe the deep dungeon, but I don't know. It's seeming more likely that the little checklist that we got at the end of Endwalker is like
It's
an
the-
order
It's
kind
the
of
patch
checklist.
preview, yeah.
Yeah, and I really don't care about the Blind Frost right now. I want more Ivalice stuff. I want Valnain. Let's go to Valnain. All right.
Let's find out if Gabranth actually did die in a fire or not.
Exactly.
Mm.
I need to know. I need to know what the state of Ivalice, quote unquote, is right now. Like, we have this time. Like, if we're going to do anything else on this continent right now, this is really the time for them to be doing it, because odds are we're leaving this continent shortly.
No, I totally agree with you on that point, because now that they've kind of streamlined the wrapping up of Zodiark and Heidelin, which has been a story that's been told for the past decade, now you're free to explore any possible avenue you've set out ahead of time. So if anyone on the writing team ever hears this, please, for the love of all that is good, don't be afraid to go nuts. Have fun. Make the Warrior of Light adventure, for God's sake.
We got a new outfit and a dungeon, and that was the end of the ruins beneath the bounty. I don't know if that's a hopeful statement for the patch cycle, or
that was not the end of the ruins. that was not the end of the ruins. Lots of stuff has happened with the ruins thus far, and I imagine that it will continue. But yeah, it was rather underwhelming. And You know, I'm just hoping that it's like it's like a thing where it's like, yeah, these are tip-offs to things that will start giant chains, right? But the
Mhm.
fact that that nothing really has been made in those calls to any of the Ivalice places doesn't give me as much hope as I would like. Um, it's just kind of depressing.
It's a damn shame, is what it is.
Like there is just there is so much fun to be had with that. The kind of fun that we haven't had in a couple of expansions, right? Like we've gone really big on this whole be a gosh darn hero thing. Be a big effing hero. But I'm kind of missing that political tension of ARR and Heavensward now. It just it it seems like the Ivalice areas, because Ivalice is nothing if not a giant dumpster fire of politics.
Oh, there's
Uh,
lots of backstabbing.
Oh
uh,
yeah. Well, honestly, that's a great tie-in with what has happened to the world now that Garlemald is defunct. What is going to happen to the provinces that were once occupied? How is their political structure going to reorganize itself? And those are growing pains that are never seamless. It's violent, it's going to be dangerous, and I would love to see them explore that.
yeah,
If
because
if
like
it,
we go ahead.
no, if I was going to say, if it's like how the Roman Empire split, is definitely not going to be pretty.
So I don't think that it's really gonna be like that though, because like the whole thing with Garlemald has really been like this giant study on the legacy of empires, and more particularly the legacy of like the British Empire kind of thing. And so I think we're gonna see like this decolonialization of uh, of all these provinces, and if we don't get to go and see that, I'm gonna be kind of disappointed. Like that's like prime storytelling material
It's a
for
good
At
the
the
example,
kind of
very
though.
least,
stories that we haven't had in a while.
we should at least see that in the context of Corvos. If they're so interested in telling us about Corvos, have Corvos be the example that we see of that decolonization.
You keep bringing up that C word, Sonic is going to punch something.
It's
Would
only
you
because they
prefer that we
do it.
called it Locus Samoenus?
I agree with that, because I have to admit, when Fortunal came and said no, I mean the Guardians claim that Locus Immunis is theirs by claim, but every land has been passed down through history, so there is no claim. And I was like, so but the Corvosi do have the claim because
No, they're just the
they live
present
there,
owners.
no?
Yeah, they live there. Therefore, yeah.
So it's
That's
like
a whole mess in and of itself, and something that, as a political scientist, we talk about in real life a lot.
Are you okay, Scribe?
No, no. So,
Just rock very, very slowly. It's going to be okay.
oh no, no. I was
He's just cleaning off his knife.
I don't know if you caught
hey,
it, but a
great
joke was
sword.
made.
I'm a dark knight. I'm a dark knight main.
Oh, you went all the
Great-
way. Okay.
Great sword, not knife. Thank you very much.
Make the ink you use to inscribe with your blood.
Oh my god.
So it
Okay.
seems like we're already on this romp, right, where we're off to save another
Yes.
shard, and this means that we're just not going to get the de-escalation of power creep and like reintroduction of like geopolitics and more grounded storytelling it means we're going to be
Yeah.
doing other things for a while, and if that just keeps happening, then we're just never going to get a taste. Is that what I'm hearing from you guys?
Yeah, yeah, really. Like this has already happened to us once, right? Because we had our little adventure after we liberated Alamigo. We had our little tiny
Dungeon Jump.
little
yeah.
tiny glimpse of being a normal adventurer again, and then just like that, they pulled us back in.
Don't make me remind of Scala, which is a fucking
That's
one
right.
dungeon,
That's the
one
one.
mention, and I'm like, give me more about fucking Scala. Give me more. This is like an entire city and beneath a lake in salt, and we only use it as a passageway beneath the Alamigan Palace. Fuck
Hey,
you.
new Garlemald residency.
No, the Garleans are going to the moon.
Let's not.
That's going to be Nero's nation, but fine.
No,
I
yeah.
have done those quests now, so some are going.
What,
to
the city of salt? Oh, it surely is.
And honestly, I'm inclined to agree with everything that you all have been saying, because from a narrative point of view, or just a literary point of view, the writers have been making inconsistent choices lately, if anyone has noticed. Like, for instance, at the end of the Zoderic and Hydaelyn stuff, and you fight the Endsinger, you do that whole shebang, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn dissolve themselves, and essentially are like, hey, if you ever need help with something, let's help each other out, but for now, let's all go do our own thing. And the Warrior of Light nods, and it's time for the Warrior of Light to go back to being an adventurer, return to their roots and stuff like that. And what immediately happens afterwards? They regroup with the Scions and go right back to saving the world again. It's just...
Yeah, it's pony a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, the writers gave themselves the perfect window to explore all these things we've been talking about, but went right back to... they slammed the door on themselves. So I'm sitting there, I want to sit down and talk to these people. I want to ask them their thought process. Maybe they're big brain and I just can't see it.
Well, Scribe, I know you like writing, so it's like they completely forgot that before you start the hero's journey again, you need to have the return to normalcy.
It can be one dungeon.
It can be one dungeon, but it was kind of truncated.
I mean, I'm. It's sarcasm.
They almost kind of did it. They almost kind of did it in just that one conversation with Tataru, and then suddenly, you're in Rods at Han, and Estinian's got a map.
He buys a map.
No, yeah.
This was a very cute series of quests. I liked it, but I would want more.
It could have just been us and Estinian. We could have held on to this for just a little longer.
Oh,
right.
I know.
I was hoping it was going to be like us going out and helping all of these people one at a time.
Yeah.
The Scions of the Seventh Dawn separating was the perfect opportunity for them to finally introduce new characters that would have been able to ground the Warrior of Light back into an adventuring role, but they didn't do that.
I was a little disappointed with that as well.
So far, in terms of new, we've got Varshan / Vitra and Zero.
And it is new. It's surely new, but
neither of those are characters that ground you in adventure so much.
Although
I would have settled for us like promoting the B team, right? Because we have a whole lot of people that are in the Scions that we know, because every now and then we're all lore nerds. So after we finish something, we go around and click on everybody.
Yep.
But
nuke our comrades, go elsewhere.
Yeah, everybody pieces out, and then the core group of B teams.
We basically just start anew. We go to authored and start exploring because we don't have all of that explored just yet.
It'd be nice.
Honestly, that's why I felt that little speech by Hades at the end of Endwalker was a little insulting to me.
You didn't want to have the patch preview.
But, no, because what got under my skin with that whole speech was like, oh, but you haven't gone here. Haven't you wondered what's over there? And I'm sitting here behind the screen going, I've been questions for the past years. Of course I want to see it. You're the ones that don't let me go there.
To be
They were
fair,
trolling
that's
specifically.
They
you,
were
Rod.
trolling specifically you, and they were being like, "This is a simultaneous bit by Hades to be like, I'm going to give you what you want as an Azem shard, but I'm also going to say you have to clean up my mess for me
Yeah, pretty much.
while I
That's
go
a
take a nap."
that's a very Hades thing to do.
It
He
is.
I
gives you
know.
the broom and then points the right way.
No,
Have
yeah.
fun. Go have fun.
Though I feel like I need to preface something really quick. Just because I give the writing team for Final Fantasy XIV a hard time does not mean I think they're doing a bad job. I wouldn't have made more than 100 frickin' lore videos of this game if I thought that this game sucked. I just feel like, recently especially, they have had perfect opportunities to really explore the world, characters, and mechanics of the lore, but just chose not to for some reason.
My sense of things is that they want to tell this grand story and they want to take little side jaunts here and there, but to get the level of content we all desire, they would really have to have a fully new development cycle with almost a new game's level of resources. Like if you think of any first year launch MMO, the breadth of content that those have versus an expansion pack, how they're very different things. To get to all that stuff in the same amount of time, I just really feel like we would need that level of development. Obviously, it's not a thing that's going to be coming. So I do hope they take us back to the Evolution territories because there was a real cliffhanger at the end of Bosnia, and that plus what you've just said about the window they shut was a perfect opportunity.
Kind of. I mean, there's. It's not as a. I mean, my formation in video game development is basically concept art, but you kind of touch upon everything, and it's very different to plan the narrative for a closed game than for an MMO. So there's because in a closed story you basically write the script as if you were kind of writing a movie. It's different, but still, just you get the idea. It basically has the start, the plot, and then the conclusion. If you're going to write a sequel, then there's that. You do that too in writing novels or preparing a movie or something. And if not, you have to draw from what you already have. You don't want to make an entire mess of a sequel. And but an MMO is difficult because you have the story plan to a certain point, but eventually we'll come to the point in which you will reach that part of the story and you will have to start creating more. And on the way, then you'll probably have come up with new concepts that you will want to introduce. You have old concepts that you will have to rewrite. You'll have and at the same time, you're basically every expansion creating a new story within a story. So you have to make it feel clean and well integrated. So it's not precisely easy. And if you play enough MMOs, I only played like 3, perhaps 4. But if you're an avid player of MMOs, you realize that this is always something that the development teams struggle with. Some of them resolve them better than others, but it's sometimes it's like when about the narrative, it's like, yeah, if I were in their place, I would, and considering the quality of 14, all things considered, I would be struggling to lots, way more than they actually do struggle with. So
Honestly, I lay the blame firmly at the feet that storytelling simply isn't at the forefront of 14's MO. Like, let's look at, for instance, at the fact that this is a Japanese studio. And now let's look at the Japanese culture that actually plays their game locally. That audience actually cares very little to not at all for the story or the side content or the lore. They're more interested about the gameplay, the rating, and stuff like that. It's their Western audience that has more of a laser focus on lore and storytelling and stuff like that.
This
Because
is something Moose actually brought this up in his episode.
Yeah. One of the first appearances.
Yeah, when we had Moose on, Moose brought that up too.
No, yeah, and it's true. So
It's true. Yeah.
it's an unfortunate truth that as much as I would love to see them go crazy with the lore and storytelling, they probably will not, because that's just not. I don't even think it's in their top 5.
They certainly have more of an interest in catering to their more local player base to an extent, which is fine. Certainly, though, they also like, and you see this with some of the Q&A stuff where they're like, it's open to your interpretation. They want to leave a lot of niches for people to be able to just do what they want with the story and make it their own. Like, it's your story. This is our story. That's what Ardbert says. It's our story. So it's like they would probably come to us with any of these subjects and be like, well, just interpret it how you want. Like, we've given you the tools to do that.
I think it's important to note also, it's interesting you say that this game isn't focused on storytelling specifically, because it's one of the most narrative heavy games I've ever played in the MMO subset.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting juxtaposition, I think, because they do a pretty darn good job of the main story. I mean, it's bonkers, but when it comes to branching out to other stuff, you sometimes usually don't get the depth you're looking for.
If you're going to, I think if you're going to write a Final Fantasy, usually the standard is that it's going to be storytelling heavy. But yeah, I see where Synodic is coming from, and I actually
And probably moved all their world building writers to Final Fantasy 16.
I mean, they
forward to
did
it.
that. They did that with Kochi. I mean, it's not like that
True,
outside the
true.
realm of possibility that they really did that.
But I agree with Synodic, because actually the plot itself, I mean, it's not bad storytelling, but they more often than not kind of restrain themselves to MSQ, and side quests, or even the major side quests, they tend to leave them a bit hanging for all the potential some of them have.
I mean,
I kind of thinking of the Shadows of Mac raid series, and I'm like, bring that raid back. It's
Honestly,
going back to the
Meowth brings up an excellent point. It took the writers all the way till Endwalker to acknowledge that these significant events that happened in side content even existed in the first place.
That is
I mean,
true.
I mean, think about that for a second. It took them multiple expansions to acknowledge something that happened in ARR even happened.
You're saying that in main story acknowledgments, it wasn't present, right?
Yes, because well,
Meaning the characters that we go to for leadership that progress the story weren't really acknowledging the events that had gone before until
exactly.
I got
Because when it comes to studio writing, of course, you have different people working on different departments. Your main scenario writers aren't the same people doing the side quests. I mean, that would be too much work. So
Absolutely.
but it's important for the MSQ writers to acknowledge significant events that still help shape the world.
Yeah, like essentially have a bullet chart of the timeline, and as a story reaches a certain threshold, and you look at that chart and say, "Oh, that would be a good pick for here. Why don't we integrate
Exactly.
that into the story?" Because
And
it's in the game, it's just not in MSQ. It's in, side.
exactly. And Final Fantasy XIV showed a very strange hesitation to acknowledge all of these events until the very last minute, which is very weird, at least from a world building and writing point of view.
Yeah, but from a mechanical point of view, I mean, it makes sense unless you're going to make the side content mandatory. You can't assume that anybody knows what's going on. I mean, you can do kind of like what they did with Alizé and what was it, 3.2, 3.3,
4.
3
4,
point.
Because
where
the
where
dialogue change if you've done coils.
yeah, you can do something like that where like somebody else is taking care of your mess. Um, speaking of sending other people to clean up messes, where somebody else is taking care of your mess, and so the stuff still did happen. You just weren't the one that did it, right?
And that's like Xenos acknowledging us as the Slayer of Bahamut, right? Like that kind of integration. Are you not aware of that?
At the same time, I think they kind of putting themselves barriers with their hesitation to quest log story progression related to other things. Like I know for some people it can be annoying that the 5.3 was locked behind the Crystal Tower raid series completion. But at some point they will have to face that.
Honestly, that I've always found that to be the weirdest complaint. How dare you make me play a video game in my video game?
Yeah.
Well, hey,
what? How dare you put content in my way? What am I paying you for?
People want utter freedom. That's all.
Yeah. Have you not seen the absolutely wonderful, no problems whatsoever response to the upcoming relic weapon? There was absolutely nothing but unequivocal acclaim for it. Yeah. Nope. It was a shit show.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't. I just personally, my personal bias looks at those complaints and goes, what are you playing this for exactly? Because, now, I see where you're coming from. There are other MMOs we can use as an example for when it comes to freedom of movement in a main storyline. We used Guild Wars 2 as an example earlier. You can go through the Guild Wars 2 MSQ and completely skip over the dungeons that the characters acknowledge as events that had happened.
Which is also wrong, right?
Which is very strange.
Yeah,
like, you can skip the dungeons that are super important to the story.
Remember when you went to that place?
Yeah, remember when this happened? No. Oh, okay, moving on. So, yeah, like, I'm not saying there is one right way to do this, but there are many examples of how to create a progressive living world without completely disenfranchising other things that had already technically occurred. Not everything needs to be canon, but there are some things that should get a nod.
In the end, it's the player's responsibility. If they don't get it, then it's their fault for not going after for not clearing content that's there and you're supposed to clear.
No, yeah, I mean, this isn't Destiny 2 we're talking about. We're not talking about a game where the story moves forward with or without the player. Oh, you missed the past 3 seasons? Oh well, I guess you'll never understand why certain characters are here. Oh!
That just happened to me recently. A friend of mine had skipped the last seasonal content the last 3 months or so, and was like, did I miss something? I'm like, yeah, you did, you know.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. Have fun.
This is why I want Kazutoya Maehiro back. For those that don't know, he was the one that penned the Heavensward MSQ, and you can thank him for Papalumo and Harshafon's death.
And Yazael.
And Ysael. Which means your Final Fantasy 16 game is going to have a lot of death.
Good.
So
Finally,
yeah,
a
you're
mature
saying
audience,
he's
Final Fantasy.
He's the G.R.R. Martin of Final Fantasy 14 storytelling.
There you go.
Yes.
No one is
I
safe.
mean,
He's not afraid to pull the trigger.
And I really appreciate that. Not because a story has to have death here and there to be good. I will always defend the point of meaningful death. Like, if you kill a character only to resurrect the character, or kill a character just because, yes, it loses the point.
Like, Hades.
Or because people don't like them.
No,
Terrible character.
Honestly, that all goes back to making sure your stakes matter within your story. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, let's take Dragon Ball Z, for example. The entire reason no one cares when someone dies in that show is because, what's stopping the Dragon Balls from bringing them back? So, when you suspend the stakes of something like death, or you do something as stupid as make a Stola cast flow more than once, then you're really kind of diluting the stakes.
If they ever actually try to kill Y'shtola, absolutely no one's going to believe it. Everybody's going to be like, "Yep, she'll show up in like 3 days."
She's got that mascot armor on a bit.
We've got a comment in the chat
too.
that says, "I don't like Ishikawa's style of writing without committing, and it hurts of killing without committing, and it hurts the narrative down the line."
Anyone else remember that Y'shtola's Aether Eyes are supposed to be killing her?
Yes.
I've heard that was only in English, which would make sense considering it's never come up. But I don't actually know.
I think the original Japanese was something about that consumes her life force, not that it eventually kill her, but basically.
Well,
it makes her tired or something.
That she's having to burn ether that she could otherwise use for other things.
She needs to
be
take
able
more
to
cat
see.
naps.
She needs to eat a hearty meal. That's where you get ether.
Oh, yeah, that's where you get your Archon
Got those
loaf.
apples.
Oh God, changed my mind.
Yeah, and I was going to say something about the thing about in terms of 16, and I bring this up because they're obviously drawing a lot from Tactics inspiration and Ivalice too. Just when I saw the summary of the plot in this, I was thinking this is fucking evil. And I mean, and I really appreciate that, of course. But yeah, it's like expectation for, because in Tactics, there's a lot of death, a lot, and actually I kind of, when I played Tactics, the original one, for the first time, I was kind of surprised that it's actually fucking violent in pixel sprites, and so well done, actually, really impactful. And I was thinking of that, and how and thinking of how much political intrigue and death is in Tactics, and when you combine that with the writer of Heavensward, I'm sitting here like like, okay. But anyways, that was just more reflect. Sorry.
No, don't be.
Derailed.
So you're looking forward to being in pain then?
I mean, that's an interesting way to phrase it.
I'm not. How should I put this?
You're not looking forward to it.
No, I'm absolutely looking forward to it because I'm a sucker for angst. I mean, being a Final Fantasy 13 trilogy fan does that to you. So there's that.
Oh, 13.
So, I lost my place. I
Angst. And 15
Angst.
or 16, I mean.
16, yeah. I placed there for a moment. I was kind of not sure how to interpret that. So
Cobran in chat is backing you up, Meowth.
Thank you, Cobb.
13 isn't bad once you finally start to get through it. Like, it's one of those things where I feel like
a root canal isn't so bad once you're done with it.
I understand not everyone enjoys every style. I actually didn't enjoy it until I had Meowth sort of guide me through, but that really changed my opinion on things, I will say.
Yeah, it's you know, I think of 13 like Super Troopers. It's one of those things where the more you play it, the more you like it.
So it's like drugs.
Yeah, it's like food.
What the hell, Fow?
What?
I mean, I didn't want to. Why does it always happen that when Meowth mentions the 13th trilogy, it derails? Can we go back to Ivalice? I
No,
feel
it's
bad.
fine. We've been going for a long time anyway.
Yeah, we've been going on for 2.5 hours.
It's a long time. It's been
Yeah.
fun.
And I've got work in about 4 hours, and I only slept like 2.5 hours before this.
Oh, what are you
so-
doing
Jesus.
here?
You should go the hell to sleep.
Why are you
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Because I wanted to hang out with all of you.
Oh,
Well, we
Oh.
appreciate it, but also
I
go to
don't.
bed.
I don't have people around me to talk to.
We appreciate it, but also
About
get the
stuff
hell
like
out.
that.
Is that
also
what you
take
said?
care of
Not yet.
yourself.
You're
I
welcome
will.
to come hang out
I will.
anytime, but please
I-
rest.
I will totally rest. I only usually get like 4 hours of sleep most days that I work anyway, so this isn't.
So the
that
Yoshi
much
P
different.
style.
Yeah, it's one of
Too real.
it's one of the what is that? Highly effective habits of what
highly developed people
of
or something like that. I don't know what you're
Successful
talking
or
about.
whatever.
yeah people that are awesome do this.
I know. I've heard it. Don't worry.
Somebody clip that.
God,
Yeah.
you're so awesome.
Not as awesome as you, Scribe.
Oh, you're gonna make
Well-
me all blushy behind this mask.
I'm gonna catch up to you eventually. It ain't gonna be today, but one day.
Well, one day, all right.
Yeah.
But now that you mention now that you mention it, and I'm going to just grab the thread here, if you allow me. We made we went for like a special Ivalice alliance episode, sort of. Cobb and I and Neela too planning a special 13 trilogy. So maybe, Scribe, you're invited.
That's fun.
So you can watch.
Just be
Unless
sure
you're prepared to see me completely dismantle 13's writing scheme, maybe keep me away.
I think this is like the boss battle showdown of the century.
I was gonna say, like, I've
Meowth has done a
I've
lot of deep
seen.
diving.
Oh no, I'm
I've
not
seen-
saying that there isn't a lot of lore in that series. I'm saying it was presented and written with absolute trash in mind.
Carefully steps
see?
back.
See, yeah, dude, I don't know. You're getting ready to, like, I've seen them talk about 13. You're getting ready to walk right face
You've
first.
lifted a couple of boxes on the
Into,
table
uh,
already. Let's not add any more.
third box.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
You're walking
mean-
face first into a set of claws, man.
let's
I
just-
mean,
No,
Okay.
people are
Here it
allowed to
comes.
love what they love. Like, as a storyteller, I think that it's important for people to adore whatever they adore. Like, if you have a favorite movie, video game, or book that no one else likes, love it. Why not? No one should tell you what should be your taste ever. Like that. Listeners, dear viewers, don't let anyone ever tell you what you should or shouldn't enjoy. If you enjoy it and it doesn't hurt anyone, love it with all your heart, for me. However, if we're going to break something down from a purely academic point of view, now you've set standards.
Well, the thing with it is that it's also a matter of art. Presentation of story is an artistic style. Some people write in very weird, ethereal ways. Some people write very nitty gritty. I have seen a lot. I do some of the. I don't do the academic writing anymore, but I'm active in that community and I pay attention to it. And people will say, well, this is the way, this is the correct way. Well, there's style guides, but in the end, art is art. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fine. But someone will.
Well, yeah,
I, for example, agree with describing that the narrative is not precisely. It's not. It's not for everyone. Second, it's hard to. Sometimes, if you don't have kind of a guiding or an idea, you can be lost. But at the same time, third, considering that in its time period in video game history and Final Fantasy history, it was the experimental period, so to speak. So I can understand that lessons learned from whatever mistakes, because I mean, in the end, it's like art. You may like it, you may not. but these things laid the way from the current generation to be more solid. So there's merit on that for me. But at the same time, 13 was hit with a lot of other side things like
Issues.
I'm not going to go into the localization or just spit
We'll
salt
just call it
here.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not get into the travesty that was 13 cross and then eventually the like 15 and then all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Let the salt flow through you.
Oh man. No,
No,
just so you know, Meowth, that I'm not completely taking the piss on 13. There are two things I actually will praise the game for. One is its artistic design and graphic fidelity. It was a gorgeous game to look at. Absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, I'll never forget, there was one scene when I was first playing through Final Fantasy 13 for the first time that the cutscene ended, but the game did it so seamlessly, I didn't even know the cutscene was over. It looked so good, and the transition was so fluid, I didn't even know it was time to play the game. So, from an artistic and design choice, absolutely stellar. And two, the music, absolutely A tier. But then again, Final Fantasy as a franchise is known for having stellar scores. So they definitely led up into that. But from a purely storytelling point of view, I do have notes.
I would probably agree on not more than a few on them. It's just that for myself, I have learned to read the narrative, of course, but it's not. Of course, I understand that it's not meant for everyone to like it, and it can be very confusing. So you're not going to hear me that. It's just that the thing, like you said before, it's fine if there's something controversial that you like, it's perfectly fine. Like, for example, I have my controversial opinions on Final Fantasy VII, then fine. I know that I'm going to be persecuted by like 70% of the Final Fantasy fandom, so it's fine there. But there's the difference here is I think the key difference here is there's these things about this game that I don't like, or I think that they could have been handled better, and outright saying this game is bad. That's the difference that irks me out.
Hey,
But
Meow.
I know that wasn't your intention. It's just that I've been through. How can you like the 13th Reach is just a bad game? You're a bad Final Fantasy game. I heard that.
No, if you love Fantasy 13, then freaking love it. Like, at least someone did.
Hey, I feel your pain. I had years and years of being the only person that I knew that loved Final Fantasy VIII more than Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, that's
actually one of my best
Same.
One of my best friends is in that boat too.
It's
Now you're throwing a toaster in the water.
No, that's a good topic
thrown at us.
discussion for sure, and I'd like to have it at another time because the truth is, 8 was a more mature title with slightly worse execution, but kind of a cooler overall modern story experimental twist thing going on. And I don't dislike time shenanigans, so I thought it was a really cool game that was vastly underrated.
Well, and my criteria for time stuff, the time stuff was baked into the plot.
Correct.
Instead of added.
Yeah, you said that before. Well, we have been going for 2 hours and 49 minutes, counting the lobby time, so I think it's time to close. I want to thank our guests for coming on today, Synodic Scribe and Lanverley from the Eorzean Archives. You guys are awesome. Thank you. You're welcome to come anytime. And I will just leave the floor open for any final announcements, self-promotions, anything like that at all, and then we'll close up shop.
Scribe, would you like to go first?
Oh, you charmer, you.
Put the boxes back down.
So, anyone listening who maybe doesn't know who I am or what I do, I am the Synodic Scribe. I make Final Fantasy 14 lore content for the most part at the moment. I have new videos out literally every week, sometimes 2 or 3 videos out a week. And at this very moment, if any of you listening are fans of the animator Joe Cat, he and I do in fact have a collaborative video talking about roleplay, the nature of roleplay in Final Fantasy XIV and gaming in general, coming out on my channel very soon. So if you are a fan of that, can't wait to see you there. He and I have had tons of fun putting it together.
That's
All
amazing.
right.
Joe Cat's videos are really fun. I bet this one's going to be great. Thank you.
It probably will. Most of his stuff is. So I am the archivist Lon Verlay. I'm part of a 3-person team for the Eorzean Archives. We also do lore content. Somehow we managed to not do the same thing as everyone else, since the lore scene has kind of exploded over the last year and a half. But we do live streams right now. Ilio, one of the other people in the archives, is going back through Heaven's Word. We also do some long form podcasts about Endwalker and just general lore videos. We're trying to make sure that we start hitting all the holidays, because the holidays kind of get missed with what happens each year. So the avatar that you're seeing is actually Naniri Neri, and they take care of most of our written content, which you can find on eorzeanarchives.com. And then it's Sunday, so there will be shenanigans on Twitch later. If you're a fan of shenanigans, not necessarily Final Fantasy 14 shenanigans, although that has been the thing lately, feel free to come and check us out. And yeah, I just want to give a quick little shout out to somebody who unfortunately was not able to make it with us today, but recently passed his 10K mark on YouTube, Stouthelm. If you guys haven't checked him out, also give him a look.
Yeah, Stouthelm was a great guy. He has some really good theory crafting videos, so go give him some love.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all very much, and hopefully Stout will be able to come on again soon. But something came up today, so alas. But yeah, I guess that's it. Anything for the cast? Ayumi, Neela, Meowth, Cordealer? Anything for you guys?
It's just thanks for coming out, everybody. It was a good time.
Yeah, that.
I was going to say I was kind of nervous because I always get nervous with guests. It's been an honor to speak to both of you personally, and also apologies for derailing the discussion, as always happens when I'm nervous.
Oh no, we've had a lovely conversation, Meowth.
Wonderful, and half of it was my fault anyway.
That's totally
No,
fair.
no, no. There's no bad blood at all. I know you're a person with judgment, so I understood what you meant.
All right, everybody. We'll close up here. Thank you again. This has been Lorelines episode 72. We'll see you all next week, and have a great rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Stay safe, my friends.